and welcome to the SPK studio ahead of 5 glorious days of action at Royal Ascot. It's the third year we are dedicating an entire podcast to this brilliant few days that we have got, and we are always in the company of Tom Collins and Ross Millar. So nice to have them all over in person to go through what we have to look forward to. We are recording on a Thursday afternoon just ahead of the kickoff point on Tuesday, and we will be covering all the Group 1 races and feature races at Royal Ascot. We will be having a segment on 2-year-olds and a selection of handicap tips, but we're still a little bit far out to know absolute confirmed races and where horses are going. But we have got handicaps and we've got 2-year-olds to give you, and that will be coming at the end of the podcast. So keep an eye on that. But before we begin, there will be winning boosts on specific days for Royal Ascot with SBK. So check out the app at betsbk.com each day to take advantage of those offers. And as ever, new SBK users, you get £30 in free bets when you sign up and bet £10 for the first time. So we will give you a host of selections. You've got all the opportunities to get involved, especially with those winning boosts that SBK have been offering over the last couple of weeks. So without further ado, Tom and Ross, you ready to go?
Of course. Yeah.
Before we get going, a bit of housekeeping. Normally it's the summertime in June. Normally it's really warm, but we're in jumpers and we're quite cold. And in fact, it's quite important because the mixed bag of weather we've had means that we're not really certain what we're going to have next week. It feels like a little bit more Cheltenham-esque having such an eye on the ground than we normally have before. The ground is currently good to firm in places. From what I've read this morning, there's 6.2 millimetres of rain recorded over the past 7 days. There's a bit of rain due on Thursday and Friday. There's a lot of wind. The showers are also expected on Monday. They could have anything between 12 millimetres and to 20 millimetres. Oh, who's our resident weatherman? What does this mean? What are we likely to get, Ross?
It means if you go in, take your umbrella and your sunscreen, doesn't it? I don't think I've looked at 2 forecasts and it doesn't look like torrential rain. So probably not going to get much worse than good to soft, I wouldn't think. And obviously the danger is they get a big heavy shower having watered, but hopefully there's enough rain around they won't water either. So you might get genuinely good enough flat racing ground, I hope.
Yeah, and it's a track that actually does very well with the rain. And just quickly on that, it's very difficult for selections knowing which one you're going to get, and also trainers which race they're going to run a horse in as well, depending on what the weather's going to do.
Yeah, exactly. You just basically nailed the hammer on the nail there by saying this the quickest draining track. So not only if we get the rain, we then don't know if it's actually going to be good to soft or soft anyway. It could just drain by the time Ascot begins and be good to firm. So it's difficult. We'll do our best with the selections, but I'm kind of leaning on the fence here of going with horses who like good ground. If there is a big downpour that we're not anticipating, then we'll have to revisit it.
Yeah, and we've had a fair few differing of opinions, to say the least, over the last few weeks. And I think that's made this podcast a little bit spicy. City of Troy obviously has been the main culprit. And although we don't have him to discuss this year at Royal Ascot, there is a splattering of star quality without being absolutely epic every day. But I think we enjoy the spicy, challenging thoughts. So I'm going to hope that we've got a few differings of opinions today, and Tom and Ross have uncovered some good things in what I believe is generally a very open Royal Ascot this year. So we will get going. We'll start with Tuesday. As always, really the highlight of the week racing wise. We've got 3 standout Group 1s, and as customary we begin with the Queen Anne, where we will see the milers going down the straight. And last year, a bit of a shock, we saw triple time winning, and that was at the expense of Inspiral. It's kind of a feeling of deja vu, although she's had a run this year, Ross. And we've spoken about about this throughout a lot of our podcasts, about how weird this spring into the summer's been, how it probably takes a bit of a toll on fillies and mares and anything else. So can you forgive her for what she did? And do you take a lot out of what John and Thady Golson have said about that, all their horses in general, that they've really needed their run, and that this might just come at the perfect time for Inspiral with what looks not a bad renewal of this race?
Yeah, no, I think absolutely you can take it on trust. I know I saw people say, "Oh, they're just trying to protect Kieran Schumacher." The horse was never going to win last time. You know, from the position it had, I don't think it was down to what he did at all. Are we certain she's going for this though? Because she's got an entry in the Prince of Wales Stakes, and I saw an interview with Chris Richardson of Cheveley Park where he said that she would probably go to this because Passenger, who's by Ulysses, who's a Cheveley Park stallion, was going for the Prince of Wales. He's obviously now not going. I just wonder whether that opens the door for her to go over what I think is probably a better trip for her. If she did go here, I think I'd probably oppose her on the fact that she might just want a little bit further these days. I just wonder if she's lost a little bit of boot. I thought Charyn probably emerged as the best horse in the lock-in. TC didn't get paid out, but I thought it was, if you take audience out of it as an anomaly, and maybe it wasn't, maybe he'll prove that here. I think Charyn was the only horse that really was in the race from the get-go and shaped really well. But I don't really trust the form. Witch Hunter was really well beaten in the John O'Gaunt last time. Big Rock gets a new jockey. Christophe Soumaron coming in for Aurélien Lemaitre. But again, we still don't know whether the ground was against him last time because he patently wasn't fit with his new trainer. So with issues over those three at the front of the market, I thought Maljoun was a big price, 16-1 with SBK. He was a really unlucky horse in St James Palace 2 years ago. Kieran Fallon got trapped on the rail and then absolutely flew home. And he's only been seen twice since, both times after fairly long breaks, 215 plus days. And then it started this season. 215 days to start this season and 400 plus days at the back end of last year. And I think both times you could forgive him for not being fit enough. We spoke on the Thursday podcast about the Haggis Yard struggling to get their horses forward. But I thought he ran all right last time. I think he pulled too hard, which he does. He's quite a free-going horse and just got tired. He's clearly got talent. He might not be the horse he looked like being in the St James's Palace, but he's 16-1. I'd much rather play at that sort of price with a question mark against me than the three I've mentioned, who for me have question marks as well and are a much shorter price. I think he could just be, up to this class and still potentially improving because he's so lightly raced.
Yeah, I think Kieran Fallon probably still has nightmares of that run a couple of years ago. And
he was a very young jockey at the time. 2 years is a long time, isn't it? And he came to the sport quite late, didn't he? So, I'm sure he does, but.
Yeah, it's. I think, look, it's very much an open affair. You can make a case for those that probably, if Inspiral wasn't in here, they're going to be a much shorter price. So that might just change things up. Maljoun at the moment, SBK has at 16-1. So that just sort of leaves you kind of thinking maybe take a price early before we do get to, if you're listening to this on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, before decks come in on Sunday with what they do. Because as Ross rightly said, TC, Inspiral is now a Breeders' Cup Fillies mare turf winner over it's not quite 10 furlongs, is it? No. But it's still further than a mile. But that was against fillies, this is against boys. I just don't know where we are with her ever, but we know when she's good she wants to be really, really good.
Yeah, she's a difficult one. I feel like we say the same thing every podcast about her, don't we? We're like, well, she's won so many races and she racked up a streak, but we don't love her, and that seems to be the overriding feeling. I thought she ran better than her position and margin of defeat suggested in the lock-in. She was way out the back, as Ross said, and just had no chance from that position, especially the way the race was run with audience and Big Rock going out in front and dominating. I thought she shaped nicely, and to be honest, if she runs here and it's firm or good to firm ground, I will probably bet her, and it'll be the first time in a couple of years I will bet her, because I think she might go off a bit bigger price than she should, just because people will see that lock-in's defeat and go, Inspiral, not too sure anymore. So I think she could be a price if she runs here and this fast ground. However, the race provides a huge dilemma because we don't know if she is running here and we don't know what the ground is. So I'll give an alternative opinion. If it's a little bit deeper ground and or if Inspiral goes elsewhere, then Facteur Cheval will be the one for me. He ran great races in defeat in the Sussex, the Prix de Moulin and the Queen Elizabeth II stakes. Then Connections went to the Dubai Turf on the comeback and I thought he was excellent. Yeah. He was really good. Now, I've got a theory with punting in general, whether that be in the US, whether it be here. But when a horse travels a long way, runs a great race in a different country or different jurisdiction, I always want to give them one run when they come back. I don't want to bet them first up, which is a slight concern with Facteur Cheval because this is his first run back in Europe. But he loves some give underfoot, if there is any give underfoot, and I think this race will just be perfect for him. So he's the alternative. Inspiral, if it's fast ground and she runs here, will be my number one, though. And
you can't forgive Charyn?
When I'm not loyal. We know this. We know this.
Bar City of Troy, extraordinarily loyal.
Yeah. Well, he was different. I think Charyn was just the horse to bet in the lock-ins at the prices. His price is going to be a little bit more cramped in this race because of how well he performed at Newbury. I didn't think he had any excuses and he still lost. He ran great, but he lost, so I'll look elsewhere this time.
Yeah, we're thinking that was just got run away with type of thing from audience to try and back that up. Yeah, there's doubts hanging on a lot of them, too much so for me to get too involved. Inspiral, she's a 6-time now Group 1 winner for a reason, but I quite like your angle with Facteur Cheval, and he kind of really deserved that run, that win in Meydan last time. Right, we'll move on because the racing still continues to get really good at Ascot on the Tuesday. The King Charles III Stakes, renamed, formerly the King Stan Stakes, still over 5 furlongs, haven't changed that, will be the sprinting test for the Group 1 Raiders. And Big Evs has proved himself to be as good at 3 as he was at 2. And this will be his first time running against his elders. So what can he do matched up against them? Getting weight from them. You've got the likes of Regional, you've got the Australian raider Asfoora, Believing, who put up a massive run to win at Haydock last week. Kyprios, who's also a recent winner as well, and plenty of others, including the now John and Thady Gosden trained Crimson Advocate. And that's where I wanted to start, TC, ask you about Crimson Advocate, the filly, because she won at Royal Ascot this time last year. She was beaten by Big Evs in the Breeders' Cup, but she ran a great race on her comeback. What can you tell us about her, and what do you make of the John and Thady Gosden switch?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? She was obviously a very good 2-year-old, winning the Queen Mary for George Weaver. Now, George Weaver's been suspended for 2 years. Peter Gullias has taken over his barn, but I think Wathman Racing didn't really want Peter Gullias bringing her over, so they switched to John and Thady Gosden. They also said there's better sprints for her over here. Debatable with the prize money especially, but she's a very small filly. She hasn't grown from 2 to 3, and I was disappointed with her at Gulfstream last time. She scraped home in a race that she should have basically won without doing a jot, so she's not for me.
Okay, interesting. We can put that to one side, but interesting. John Thady Gosden have a 5 furlong horse. I haven't seen one for their barn of that nature for some time. Okay, well, with that in mind, how do you read this race in terms of, you've got Big Evs, he could be anything, he could be an absolute freak, but you've got a lot of horses, the likes of Regional, back to a stiff 5 furlongs, could really have everything in his favour here, but could say that for a lot of them, could be open as always.
I don't want to be downbeat, but isn't this the worst renewal of the race in some time?
Yeah.
It's so difficult to make solid cases for any apart from Big Evs. But even Big Evs, you don't really know whether he's taken a step forward from 2 to 3. That run at York was fine, but he's, again, another small horse that's not really filled out. And on RPRs, he kind of just achieved what he did as a 2-year-old. So he needs to prove that he can take a step forward. But 3-year-old did win the race last year with Brad Sell, and obviously Big Evs comes in here. He's the worthy favourite. I probably won't have a bet in this. But if there is rain around and there is some give underfoot, I'll have an each way bet on Moss Tucker at a price 20, 25 to 1.
Yeah.
Probably going to be overlooked because of connections and form, to be fair. He's very much ground dependent. He wouldn't want it good or good to firm, to be honest. But if it does get testing, then he is the one for me. He's got 5 wins from 8 starts on soft or worse conditions. Already won at Group 1 level, so we know he's capable when the ground goes his way. And as I say, he'll be overlooked, so his price will be fair. That is Moss Tucker. Otherwise, I'll sit it out.
Okay. Well, Big Ev's trying to do what his sire did all those years ago and win this race and prove to be the kind of a sprinting star that this division really needs. Are you with him, Ross?
I think he's the obvious one. What did you make of his return at York?
I loved it. I liked the way that he did it differently this time around, and he took a little bit of a pull, and I don't think that was on purpose, and I think he might have just needed the run as well, but he was beating fellow 3-year-olds. That
was my negative against him, is that he looked more relaxed and less sort of a roaring sort of sprinter. I don't like when they sort of mess with a horse's sort of natural way of doing things over the jumps and on the flat. I just worry that unbridled kind of speed that he had. They've been trying to teach him to settle. It's the one negative I got. He is the obvious one, definitely, get in the weight. I didn't have a strong opinion in this at all, but just looking at the form of Valiant Force, who won the Norfolk at this track last year, looked really quick doing that, was beaten, half a length in Santa Anita behind Big Evs, and finished very strongly. So you'd think the slightly stiffer 5 here would suit. He's 16 to 1 versus Big Evs. TC, before we came on, made a good point, though. He's gone to George Delgado, and he changed trainer from Adrian Murray. He's now back with Adrian Murray. Was that a logistical thing that he was in George's name because he was in the US, or were they planning on having a US campaign and they've changed their mind and sent him back? That would perhaps be a little bit of a negative. But Adrian Murray, who was a trainer I hadn't heard of up until about this time last year, has proven himself really adept at managing these good horses. 16 to 1 on the form just seemed too big, really, as a disparity.
Okay, well, TC, if you're against Crimson Advocate for beating Reef Runner, and Valiant Force was beaten by Reef Runner.
This is true.
What do you feel about Valiant Force's chances?
I don't like Valiant Force, but I prefer Valiant Force to Crimson Advocate in this race. Jorge Delgado was running him on dirt. I mean, I don't know why he was doing that. It's pointless. I actually tipped him when I was on Sky last time, 3 months ago, on dirt. So more for me, really. But he's got better form on turf than Crimson Advocate does, aside from the Queen Mary win. I would prefer him, though.
Okay, right, interesting. I think we're all very open to the fact that it's just a division that anything can happen, as we've seen before, over and over. But I am a big Evs fan, always have been, always will be. I don't think he's grown much, but I think he's filled out, and I don't think they meant to miss the break, Ross. I think that the horse, after being off for so long, missed it himself, and Tom had no choice but to settle me as he did, and he went out and led afterwards. I think he'll be a lot more straight and more on point next week. So very much pro Big Ebs in the King Charles III Stakes. Right, let's move on to what will be, and everyone's calling it the race of the week, the St. James's Palace Stakes. This is where, even if you're a staunch National Hunt fan, you must get a little bit excited by this, because last year an Irish Guineas winner beat a British Guineas winner. Will history repeat itself? We've got not just an Irish, a British, we've also got a French Guineas winner. Notable Speech is the real talking horse. He's unbeaten. He's got to do it against the horse Rosallion, who's gone on and won a Guineas since. Tactics might be really key here. I'll be fascinated to see how they elect to do things. Was Sean Levy lucky that he got there in the end on Rosallion last time out, and will Notable Speech come forward from what he did, or is there something else lurking? Ross, you're looking at me.
The price is 11-8 Notable Speech, 3-1 Rosallion. That just seems a big disparity, really, on the form. I just wonder whether, by getting a long way back, and Sean Levy was quite clear afterwards, he had to ride the race. He wanted to ride, and he put a lot of emphasis on he had to get him to relax and settle. So I wonder whether that implies that he felt the Newmarket Guineas went away from him because he didn't relax and settle quite enough. The upshot of that is he relaxed and settled, then he had to really fight to get to the front. So whether that's, and I hate the phrase, made a man of him, and he will just be a little bit more streetwise against Notable Speech, who's open to loads of improvement. It was his first run on turf, winning the 2000 Guineas. Whether Rosallion will just have that bit more fight, I don't know. But I'd go against the pair of them because I loved Henry Longfellow last year. I thought he was really, really smart. It was a dismal return in the French Guineas, but the language into it from Aidan O'Brien was really unusually negative, in that he'd missed a lot of work. He's going to need it. He still looks big, and we're using it to step forward. I thought was unusually negative. He got a poor jump out the gate, buffeted round, got a long way back, was then ridden very patiently by Ryan Moore, and the race just transpired that to be effective you had to be prominent, and he wasn't. And as a wise man once said, don't give up on a horse for one poor run. I think the Stiff Marlow suit, you said about it being tactical, everything last year with this horse told me that he was very adaptable, very easy to ride. I just think he's got all the bases covered, and I would expect him to take a big step forward. TC's quite right. You shouldn't put too much emphasis on these stable tours, but Aidan O'Brien in the stable tour I saw with him was clearly very keen to get across. This horse has stepped forward a lot since the French outing. So I think he's nice. And then I don't think they'll run the pair of them, but Unquestionable, it's got 6.5 lengths to find. He got tired definitely on his return. He got within 1 length of Rosallion last year as a 2-year-old. He definitely stays. So it wasn't the trip that finished him off last time. He's 33-1. Like, he won't be that big, obviously, if he turns up. But if you wanted to take a chance on the fact they would run both of them, and they have run, a number in the same race over the years, I do think he's another one that's better than he showed last time.
Okay, Henry Longfellow, obviously Mitbaahy out of minding. You've got to look at that and think he's only surely going to get better with age, and he's better than the bare form suggests. But I do think this is punchy to take on the top two, the clear standouts in this division at present, with horses that have got to prove themselves. Surely that's bonkers, TC.
No. I bet Henry Longfellow 2 weeks ago at 11-2 for this race. He's one of my 2 anti-post bets for Royal Ascot.
Wow. First agreement.
Yeah, look, I understand Notable Speech and Rosallion are the two horses to beat, no doubt about it. Notable Speech was fantastic in the Guineas. Rosallion was, I was going to say great, probably not great in the Irish Guineas, was good in the Irish Guineas.
Workman-like, yeah.
Yeah, but they're the two best 3-year-olds from what we've seen over this distance so far. Notable Speech is too short. I think that's fair. It's a wide open race. It's not just a 2-horse race or a 3-horse race, really. There's a couple of Frenchies in there that have good chances as well. And even Al Yanabi, who's got really good form on rattling ground and perhaps underperformed in the Guineas, can be made a case for him winning. So I don't want to be taking 11 to 8 about any horse. Therefore, Noble Speech is not for me. He could win, but that's fine. Rosallion is dancing every dance this year. Hannon's obviously won this race before with Barney Roy, but it's a bit of a concern for me. At one point, this horse is going to underperform. Now, you could say that happened in the Irish 2000 Guineas. He underperformed, but I don't know. I don't know about him, and he's short enough for 3-1. So I think the upside is Henry Longfellow, and for everything that Ross has said, he was a very good 2-year-old. I thought Ryan, uncharacteristically, gave him a poor ride in France. Ryan being the best around, but I don't think it was good. Trapped in the pocket and just couldn't really move forward at a perfect time, and yeah, things just went wrong. But Aidan's runners have needed the start anyway, so I think he's going to take a huge leap forward. And that's not to say he's definitely going to win, but he was the bet, and probably still is the bet, around 9-2-ish.
Yeah, they go so slowly in France, don't they? And they crawl and crawl. You know, our resident Frenchman here will attest to this, but they crawl and then they sprint, and then they can get left. And I'd have thought that Ryan would have predicted that a little bit. So I thought that was a bit uncharacteristic. But I think that he was, he was in that French Guineas for a reason, because,
it smacked of a ride of don't get him bottomless, with a furlong to run. They wanted him to finish his race off. But yeah. Certainly.
But look, he was separated from City of Troy for a reason. They wanted to give him probably the slightly easier option. Whereas, look, Rosallion and Notable Speech, they all went so hard in that 2000 Guineas, and these two horses are the ones that could really keep with it, and Haatem, and that form has been proven. And Haatem and Rosallion, as much as it was probably not the easiest of watching for any of the connections of those two, Rosallion did come up out on top. And I just thought, and I'm going to stick to it from what I thought just after the Guineas, that reopposing around a bend, Rosallion would beat Notable Speech. I think that he's a horse that guns and knows how to keep up momentum, but he might just have to be a little bit more settled going around the round course, and they might just make it that. That's why I was saying it earlier, it might just make it a little bit more tactical. And I think that he will fight it hard to contain himself. He's still a relatively inexperienced horse when it comes to the turf anyway. So I just can see it maybe not working out to the best of his advantage, whereas Rosallion will really appreciate the setup of this race. And I just think these two horses are heads and shoulders above them, although the official handicapper has given Rosallion and Henry Longfellow the same rating, which is noteworthy. But you're either with us or against. But first, agreement with Henry Longfellow for these two, and I'm very much with Rosallion. But as I say, the prices are reflective of that. And if you're with Henry Longfellow, 4-1 with SPK, and Rosallion is 3-1. So we have to agree. One of the races of the week.
Definitely. One last thing on Notable Speech really quickly. He's an interesting horse because he seems to have everything. He has that high cruising speed. He can pounce late when they go hard up front, but also we saw at Kempton prior to when he won when he beat Valvano, they went super slow. He was last of 5 and he burst through. So he has a wicked turn of foot as well. So there's a lot to like about him. It's just the price. I think we need to hammer home the price is the thing we don't like here.
Which is what I said about City of Troy. It wasn't that I hated him. It was the price.
Don't try to go back on it now.
Going back.
It was the price I couldn't take. You can rewatch it if you want to. Right, we'll go back. We'll head on now to the Prince of Wales Stakes, into another real enigma in the racing landscape at present. Will he or won't he is the question for Auguste Rodin. And when he is good, he is really good. But knowing when that will be is quite a mystery. He will line up in the Prince of Wales Stakes on Wednesday. He was excellent at the Breeders' Cup. He was excellent in the Derby. He was excellent in the Irish Champion Stakes. He wasn't very good last time. Well, or he had any excuses at least, but he was really bad in Meydan. So he's beaten on 2 starts this year. And I don't think the victory of White Birch was any fluke, indeed, but it was on soft ground, or softer ground than what we're going to get on Wednesday. So do things play more into his favour this time around?
I don't think so. No, I think he's been disappointing twice now, and forgiven for one bad run, but he's had 2 now, and you could argue that the ground wasn't soft enough for White Birch last time, and it shouldn't have been too soft for Auguste Rodin. He did cope with it, excuse me, in the Futurity. So I would agree with you. I don't think White Birch got the credit he deserves. I think people straight away jumped to the fact that Auguste Rodin had underperformed. I just wonder whether all this travelling around and the sort of building back up that Auguste Rodin has had has maybe left a little bit of an effect on him. Because I couldn't really decipher between that form from White Birch to Auguste Rodin, I do think Alflaila is a really big price at 12-1 with SBKs. Only run twice at this trip. Won a Group 2 at York, and I was really impressed that he was able to stick at it over this trip because he was very keen through the early stages, and then went to the Irish Champion Stakes, stood in the stalls and gave them the start. And I think Jim Crowley thought they were going to come back to him, and they didn't. And that was the race, if you remember, where Luxembourg and Auguste Rodin had the race run to suit, and Holly Doyle got flack for her ride on Nashua, and Kevin Stock got flack for his ride at King of Steel. Alflaila, you could see turning in that Jim Crowley had realised that the race had gone, just pushed him out hands and heels, and he still really closed up. He was beaten a comfortable distance, but he wasn't anywhere near hard pressed. I think he's a quick horse. I think he'll like this ground. And if they do force the pace a little bit early and he jumps out the stalls, I think 12-1 is a big price when I've got question marks over the ground for White Birch and just the general aptitude and attitude to racing now of Auguste Rodin.
Yeah, Alflaila has been obviously carved out for it. Hasn't needed a prep run. That wouldn't worry you too much. Seemingly can go well quite.
Owen Burrows does really well bringing horses back from long layoffs, doesn't he? He often has them, coming back from injury. So yeah, no issue at all with that really with Owen Burrows. Okay,
so against the top at the of the market for Ross with Alflaila, which is a good decent price for you with SBK. We'll go back to the White Birch point because this horse has been fantastic this season, and look, John Murphy wouldn't be known for Group 1 winners. It's the same old thing, if he was trained by anything else he'd be a lot shorter, but it is for me, and I think I would be with him if I was genuinely confident there was real juice in the ground.
But why shouldn't he be favourite anyway?
That's definitely, I agree with that, but I just don't. Do we back him based on the fact that we know that the ground could be too quick for him? Not saying that Auguste Rodin will necessarily beat him because of it.
I don't think it will be too quick for him. I mean, he might be better on softer ground. There's no denying that. I mean, his recent form has obviously been on soft and heavy. But go back to last year, he finished a great second in the Dante, arguably the best horse in the race that day, given too much to do. But that was on good firm. Then he finished third in the Derby when, again, he was way far back. And he tried to make up the late ground, and you just can't do that in the Derby. And again, on good firm. So I think he would handle fast ground as well as anything in the race. And I definitely trust him a lot more than Auguste Rodin. I am willing, as we've already touched on, to forgive a horse a bad run. But I didn't think he ran badly last time. I thought that was just Auguste Rodin, and he was stuffed. So I think we've seen the best of him,
Okay, I think he's a horse that needs to be carefully managed, and I think we saw Ryan Moore at his absolute best in Santa Anita and at Leopardstown.
Just to butt in, if Ryan didn't go up the inside, do you think the horse would have won? Because I don't.
That's what I'm saying.
He made 3 lengths, and then that margin was actually eroded on the run-in. Like, the horse probably wasn't best. Ryan was just amazing that day.
To my point about this race, and we saw this a few years ago with State of Rest, who was given an absolutely beautiful ride from the front. I think Ryan will know how to ride this slightly better than maybe Colin Keane would do. And I don't think it will be about the best horse necessarily in the day. It could be the best ride. And that's why I'm just slightly siding with Auguste Rodin, that he could be given an absolutely excellent one, a bit like what happened at Leopardstown, to time it well. These horses slightly, it's a little bit windy. It's a bit of a muchness. And if Ryan just nails the tactics, he just could be the right bet here.
You've got PTSD from City of Troy.
Oh, God. You're going to talk. He's not here.
You're going back to the other horse who had a similar profile to City of Troy and looking to get one back. We all know it.
He's not running this week. We don't need to talk about it all the time. Okay, well, we'll take each other on again. Yep. That's fun. Round 2. So I'll stick with Auguste Rodin for a tactical looking Prince of Wales. White Birch for TC, and Alflaila for Ross, and that is the Prince of Wales. Be quite juicy, that. So we're going to turn our attentions to Thursday. This is where we get to the Gold Cup, and this is probably one of the shortest price horses of the week. Kyprios, who sadly wasn't in the race last year, coming back to get back onto get his crown again after seemingly lucky to really be alive, let alone on a racetrack. So great to have him here. We've got Gregory, last year's winner, Courage Man and Me, out with an issue. Vauban's in here. Keys Chorister for the big characters of his owner Clive Washbourne, owner breeder Clive Washbourne, and then we've got plenty others in here as well. It could be quite a big renewal. A lot of people want to have a Gold Cup runner, but unlikely they're going to have a Gold Cup winner because it looks like Kyprios is back to his very best. Would we say, TC, or not?
Yeah, I say so. In my opinion, and I say this with all respect to connections, there's one very, very good horse in here, and the rest are just nice horses, to a certain level. And I'm categorising Vauban on just his platform by saying that. He was a very good jumper, of course. But Kyprios, if he turns up and is anywhere near what we've seen last time, maybe the time before, and if you go way back to 2022, he will justify favouritism. And I imagine he'll be the bunker for everyone at Royal Ascot. He's 10 from 14 in his career. He won this race in 2022, so we know that he can handle the trip and the things that come with running in the Ascot Gold Cup. He doesn't do much when he's in front, so people may look at the winning margins of 2 runs this year and go, well, he's not really done it as impressively as I was hoping. Yeah. But he probably had loads left in the tank, didn't he? And Aidan will have him spot him for this, so I'm with it, jolly.
And he's not a horse that really necessarily thrives over that trip. This is 2 mile 4 for a reason, and I think he's he's a real stayer. And as you say, Ryan was just sort of probably teasing us, thinking, oh, he's nothing there, and then there it was.
If you go back to the race, watch that race at Longchamp in 2022, I can't remember what was it, Cadran? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Race?
Yes.
I've never seen a horse win with such authority as Kyprios did that day on the flat.
Was that when he started moving around the track?
Left,
He was getting bored out on his own.
Yeah, he was. He just idles, but he still was going 2 to everything else as 1. He's a fantastic horse.
Yeah, he's a wonderful horse. And look, it's going to take a long time for anything to emulate the likes of the great Yates and even Stradivarius, who I struggled to get really behind until right at the end. But I do love his way about it. And I think with a horse, when he's come back from, an issue like he has, you've got to be with him. But I personally think there's a bit of each way value in it because the price is so short. There probably are horses there who are going to run big races for their money. And I know you agree with me that Keys Chorister, she's a mare. I know the owner bangs on, and I know it can get a little bit exhausting sometimes, but I think he's got a valid point.
It's brilliant.
I think he's got a valid point because sometimes if you've tried to interview him,
it
can go on for a long time and you're thinking, please don't do any swearing, please. And he gets to the end and you're like,
but we're watching it thinking, please do some swearing, especially if you're interviewing him. It's brilliant. He's bred it, so he's watched that horse from foal through to yearling. It's in a sport where we complain that, and I'm not complaining about Wathman Racing, but they've come in and just thrown a load of money at it, and straight away they got Royal Ascot runners. He's had to conceive the idea of the breeding, nurture it there, put it with a brilliant trainer to bring her through to see her potential. I think it'd be a great story, and I think she's got a good chance. Kyprios is the right favourite, no doubt about that. You said about Stradivarius, I just think of sometimes this race can just turn into a bit of a tactical, messy affair, and I'm just not sure I'd feel comfortable watching it with my money on a 4 to 5 on shot, which Kyprios is, knowing that you can find a pocket. I don't think Gregory, Vauban, Trawlerman are anywhere near good enough. I think she might be good enough to beat those 3. She might not be good enough to beat Kyprios, but 12 to 1 is an each way price. She ran well in the Sagaro Stakes, just behind Coltrane. She was off level weights because her mare's allowance was nullified by a penalty. Again, then last time at Sandown, the ground was soft. She's by Golden Horn. She's a beautiful moving mare. She's definitely going to appreciate better ground. Will she stay the trip? That's the question. But she stayed the 2 miles really well. So there's every chance she'll stay this 2 mile 4. And she might not be good enough to beat a really, really good favourite. But I think she can beat the rest of them. And if he gets trapped in a bit of a pocket or goes wandering off to the other side of the track, which we know he can do, I think she's a good price, and I look forward to the celebrations afterwards. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, she could jump a hurdle one day. Golden Horn out of Soldier of Fortune mare. I think it's a beautiful pedigree for a dual purpose sort, Clive, if you're watching. I don't see why she couldn't stay the trip. And I think she's been campaigned. I've got more, and I know that Jay will love this, but the more I watch him, the more I have so much respect for David Menouzier. He's an excellent trainer, great man. He brings his horses along. He's not scared of running them early either, even if they're going to turn into better horses as they go on. But I think he nurtures them beautifully, and he loves to run them abroad, and this has really brought out the best in her. So I'm all aboard the Keys Chorister train, just for a good run for her money again with Kyprios, and she's kind of unlucky that he's sort of there, because it'd be great to see another mare win the Gold Cup.
Absolutely. David Menezio, the SBK profile with him was brilliant, because you really got his drive, and he's got a very clear idea about what he wants to do, and he doesn't get swayed off it for popular opinion. He's got a clear idea, and if he's wrong, he's wrong, and if he's right, he's right. I thought it was brilliant. Yeah,
and he told me the other day that he's going to win the Arc, with the filly who was beaten in the 1,000 guineas.
There we are.
So so there we go, and he's very confident about it. Right, we will move on from the Ascot Gold Cup onto Friday, the Commonwealth Cup. I think this is an absolute cracker. We were saying that the King Charles III is probably lacking that sort of sparkle. There is a lot of horses that could be good enough. There are plenty of horses good enough in the Commonwealth Cup, which is, I think, it's just in general has been a really good addition to the week. And more often than not with these Royal Ascot races, you've got one or two horses. We have at least the first 7, I think, in the betting have got a really good case. And, Ross, we've talked about the conversation we've had about a lot of horses who will come forward from their first runs of the season, in part due to the funny weather. A lot of horses have been a little bit more backward. And then there's the other case of, are they better 3-year-olds than they were 2-year-olds? So there's a lot to keep in mind with this. And then there are the horses that have just been excellent from day dot this season. So how do you work it out? Or how do you work out your Commonwealth Cup winner?
I just think Vandeek is the best horse in the race. I've got the value, because I said he was 6-1 anti-post, and he's now 7-2. That's a nonsense sentence, by the way, because it's only value if they actually get the job done.
Yeah.
But I just think if you go back and watch his Middle Park win, he cruised through the race, and in the blink of an eye, he pulled clear, galloped away. So the track's not going to be an issue. He was clearly very gassy in the early stages in the sandy lane, got tired in the soft ground. That's going to bring him forward. We don't need to say about horses coming forward for their first run. I just think he is comfortably the best horse in the race. You can throw Buccaneer Fuerte and River Tiber. Their form sort of ties in together, and I'm really confident River Tiber isn't quick enough to win this. So if he's not quick enough, Buccaneer Fuerte isn't. Buccaneer Fuerte's win in the Phoenix was a really odd race, in that Unquestionable was the favourite. He banged his head in the stalls and clearly ran below his form. And consequently, Kevin Stott got a bit of a freebie in front and sort of lengthened away, and it looked really impressive. But Give Me the Beat Boys has got that form back down to about ahead on their latest start this year. So if you do like Buccaneer Fuerte at his price, Give Me the Beat Boys at 20-1 is a huge price. They ran in the lack and he was beaten ahead.
Yeah.
And I think arguably Give Me the Beat Boys should have won the Coventry last year. I think Frank Joy got engaged in a battle way too far out, got softened up and got run down, finished 4th, I think. If he gets a better ride here, he'd be the one at 20-1 I'd be interested in.
Okay.
I think those are the two.
He's so streetwise, isn't he? Give Me the Beat Boys. He's pretty much bulletproof at this point. Shaquille was one of my bets of the week last year. I remember him missing the start, which he got to do, but it's a bit like that. There can be these horses that sort of a little bit not racing rusty. They're sort of still learning, aren't they? So seeing a 2-year-old that's done a lot of it is really helpful. Vandeek himself is not exactly perfect, but you obviously saw enough in what he did last time.
Enough what he did last time, but just went back and watched the Middle Park, and I'd slightly forgotten just how impressive he was. And I was slightly against him in the Middle Park because I thought he might just want a bit of softer ground, and actually he's much better on better ground. He was just able to cope with the softer ground before that, it would appear.
Okay, right. So very much confident that Vandeek is going to go 2 better than last time and beat Inisherin, who's currently favourite for this, who can't take anything away from that performance. Maybe he was ready for it. Maybe others weren't. That's what I love about this race. You just don't know who's going to improve again. So it's a really good one, TC.
Yeah, it's super competitive. One of the better races of the week, and I completely agree with what you said about the Commonwealth Cup. It's always, since its inauguration, has been one of the best races and most look forward to races. So, yeah, looking forward to this one. I'm not going to argue with Vandeek. I think he's a solid play. Inisherin, again, another horse that shown plenty of ability this year. The Guineas run was fine, given how well the Guineas is working out, and then obviously smash Vandeek with fitness on his side. Elite Status, who you're probably going to talk about in a minute, can't argue against him either. So I feel like this is a race. If you have an opinion, then take it. I think Buccaneer Fuerte is just solid. That was the only reason I'm going to side with him. He's got tactical speed, which is what I like in this race. He should be able to sit prominently. That was the one big tick in the box for him. If River Tiber was in here, he would have been my number one. But I think you said he's running in the Jersey, or at least that was the plan. So he's not on my list. I'll tentatively put a Buccaneer Fuerte. I thought the run last time was fine, and these connections tried to win at Ascot, so he should be there or thereabouts. He might not win, though.
Okay, Buccaneer Forte, another horse that did a lot of running last year. Form ties in with Gimme the Beat Boys. Look, I loved what Vandeek did last year. I do think that, Simon Egg Crisford in general, their form has not been anything to go by. But one trainer I think who's going to have a really good week is Carl Burke, and I can't get away from what Elite Status did. Watching it at Newbury, I thought it was extraordinarily impressive. Yes, he beat Relief Rally, who might not be as good as she was last year, but she definitely put a much better run than she had in the Fred Darling. She's clearly an out-and-out sprinter. Day and Devon's a 5 furlong horse and is going to win the Scurry Stakes on Saturday to give me a little bit of confidence. But I love the comments that Clifford Lee said about elite status. And I think you have to, emphasize important like mental and physical strength is, but the mental part I think is the real key for elite status, because it kind of, I reckon, got a little bit weak on them at the back end of last year, which a lot of 2-year-olds can do. So we kind of sort of underperformed, and a lot of 2-year-olds, they start up here and then they suddenly just sort of forget how to do things, and their stride pattern starts to close up a little bit because they're just growing. And it's good that Elite Status proved that probably exactly what that was, and then came back and won the way he did. So he is confirmed to me that he's got the talent that we saw as a 2-year-old, but also has probably got even better now as a 3-year-old. So I'm very hopeful that Elite Status can continue on the vein of form that Carl Burke has been in and give him one of his better chances of the week. So hopeful for him in an absolute cracker. So that is the Commonwealth Cup. We're moving very swiftly. We've got great racing on Friday. We've got the Coronation, and again, a race where we'll see some of the best 3-year-old fillies in action. And although we don't have our Oaks winner, and we would never have seen her coming down in trip, but we can see some different types of horses in this race. We do have the Irish 1000 and the British 1000 guineas winner lining up. And I think it'd probably be a lot of horses trying to get a bit of redemption. And there's also Opera Singer in here, who, at the moment, at the top of the betting. She had her issues, and they were very pleased with how she'd ran, coming back after that, those problems. Fallen Angel, and then the 1000 guineas winner Amalka. But a lot of form cross ties here. And I suppose the question is, TC, I'll ask you, is like, re-watching the 1000 guineas multiple times, as you might have done, is kind of sort of fell apart a little bit, didn't it? So there will be a lot of connections confident that their horse, given their better opportunity, Cheval being one of them, don't get out to the front too soon, it might just change things up a little bit for them.
Yeah, I've got this theory that it wasn't a very good renewal, to be honest. If you watch the finish, there's 5 horses separated by a length at the line. Usually when you get bunch finishes like that, it's generally because there's no standout, obviously. And the RPR of 113, I think, from the winner was the joint worst in the last 10 years in the race. So that kind of backs up my theory. So I'm going to be against all of those horses that were in there. Fallen Angel, El Malka, all the others, Porta Fortuna, Ramatuelle, etc. Just on that basis, they could win. One of them could win. Ramatuelle was arguably unlucky, but I mean, if she was good enough, she would have held on. I don't care if the jockey's gone early. So this could be just another race, another winner for Mr. Aidan O'Brien with Opera Singer. She's obvious. She's fairly priced, in my opinion, at 5-2, despite being favourite. But last year's form, her win at the Curragh was scintillating, and then her Marcel Boussac success, again, extremely impressive. I thought she just needed to run on the comeback. And I tell you what, if it rains, which is debatable at this point when we're filming, but if it rains, she'd be probably my best bet of the week. If it doesn't rain, which we're kind of basing this podcast on, she wouldn't feature in my top 2, but I still think she'll win.
Have you become part of the lads since the derby?
If they want to accept me.
As Paul Smith has been in touch, hasn't he?
It's just it's just my theory that all of these Aidan O'Brien horses need to run. They're always going to be slightly under bet next time, because you look back and see a 0 or a 3 when they're odds on favourite, and yeah, I think they're going to have a very good week.
She was an exceptional 2-year-old, wasn't she? I love what she did at Longchamp, and she looked to have the world at her feet. And then she had, I can't exactly remember what it was, but it was something enough that meant that she couldn't run in the English Guineas, wasn't it? So whatever it was, she's come back from it, and I think they were really delighted with that performance.
She put a muscle behind, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so not enough to be too much of an issue, but enough to put her back a little bit.
Yeah.
Were you happy with what she did in the Irish Guineas?
I was happy that Aiden was happy. I think what we're learning is, if you want to
trainer us.
If you want to know what you think, listen to Aidan O'Brien. He's a pretty smart guy. He knows what he's doing.
I know.
But I was the same as you. I saw some of these sound bites coming out, and I could sort of see the quote on the stud card. When he was retired, but actually he seems to say exactly what he thinks.
He was right,
and he's right. So TC is absolutely right. She was just brilliant last year. She's a beautiful filly. She's got a huge stride. Loads of gears, looks thoroughly uncomplicated. I thought 9-4 was arguably bigger than she perhaps should be. So I wouldn't have anything to say against her. Just to throw one in there at a big price, and I mean 33-1 or bigger, I would want, is Skellet. She got bumped coming out the stalls in the Irish Guineas, lost her position. The first 3 home, Fallen Angel, Lilac Roller, and Opera Singer were all prominent. She didn't catch your eye closing up when you watch it back. She made quite a lot of progress from a very uncompromising position and had to switch out in order to do so. She definitely will stay this trip. I'm confident of that. She's got good form from last year from the Oh So Sharp Stakes with Dance Sequence. She's about 3 times the price. It just didn't look like the daftest outside bet of the week for me, to be honest. Yep,
okay, fine, Skellet. But I think we've all got an agreement around Opera Singer, so loving it. Hopefully the Coolmore team will bring back into the fold. And I'm with Auguste Rodin as well. Okay, so we'll move on to the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes on the Saturday. God, I can take or leave this race, to be honest, guys. I'm usually
You're reading over my shoulder.
No, I'm normally really enthusiastic about everything, as everyone knows. But every year I come around to it and I think, oh, God, something will win and that will be great. But it's just what we saw with Haatem last year was nothing short of extraordinary, really. But then you watch it back and you think, why was he 80-1? The horses do run whatever they do and then come back. It's like every sort of sprint handicap, isn't it? They're just they run their race. They could be running in the Woking in Alder Group 1 and do the same thing, don't you think?
Exactly what I was going to say. If you take the top 20 rated handicap sprinters and put them in a Group 1 and put the Group 1s in a handicap, the form wouldn't hold up in any way, shape or form, I don't think. It's such fine margins.
Yeah.
Just to pick up on your point, Cardam at 80-1 last year, 20-1 this year. I mean, he came in last year with a bunch of moderate form behind him. He arguably arrives here with more moderate form this time, but he likes the track, he likes the trip. He's going to get a strong pace to run out, which he had last year, which seems to suit him really well, without doing any deep dive into form of everything else, because you look at it and look at it and look at it, and you can find negatives from the wall, positives from the wall. 20-1 just seemed too big a price for a horse that can deliver on this day, on this track, in this type of race setup.
Will Jamie Spencer ride him? Will he not be on Mitbaahy? Because I think Jamie Spencer clearly got the best out of him last year.
Yeah, but I often think that's an overplayed. Like, if you're a top-tier professional jockey riding at Ascot, you should be capable of, and you're a flat jockey, you haven't got to worry about positioning them to an obstacle. You've got to be able to ride them from the front and know how many seconds of furlong you're doing, and you've got to be able to sit behind and know how many seconds of furlong they're doing in front of you and what horse you've got. It shouldn't be only Jamie Spencer can ride this horse.
Okay, fair point. Okay, as to that point about it being going out quick, was there not an international runner last year in this race that went out very fast? That's why I think it went the speed that they did. It could do, and I'm sure there will be a lot of pace on again. I can't really give anyone a strong opinion.
That's no good, is it?
Yeah, no, sorry. Useless. Sack me.
TC's coming in with a really
TC's
strong
going to come in
now.
with the biggest opinion of the week. Go on.
No, I'm not. But this is more of I'm kicking myself with this horse, so I've now got to put this horse up to try and redeem an error I made. So the selection is Mitbaahy. We've already briefly touched on him, but he's always looked like he had plenty of ability. Last year, he finished 8th in the King's Stand over 5 furlongs, and he just consistently failed to deliver for Roger Varian, in short. They switched him in stables, and he started to run better. Now, Newmarket, the start of this year, Craven meeting, and at the Guineas meeting, front runners only dominated every single race. If you were any further back than midfield, no chance. That was it. So my angle moving forward, I said to myself, write down a list. Well, not literally write, but whatever. Write down a list of closers who performed well. Mitbaahy did it twice in 2 different races. And then I just happened to be playing golf when he ran at Curra last time, and I completely missed it. And Jamie gave him an A+ ride and won.
Yeah.
Saw the result and I was fuming about it. So this is redemption hour for me. Not for the horse. The horse has done nothing wrong. But redemption hour for me. Hopefully I can back Mitbaahy and look to take that angle from Newmarket and win this race at Ascot.
You're our draw man. We haven't even talked about the draw. Where do you want to be drawn with this?
I prefer middle. If you're middle, you're safe. It depends where the speed is. But in a race like this, if we're getting a big field, which we will, they'll probably go like an arrow. If they split into two groups, then...
I remember Naval Crown being on one side and whoever his stable companion being right on the other side a couple of years ago, thinking, what is going on here? It's even more of a puzzle than I remember.
But it can change day to day as well. That's the issue.
The issue of Royal Ascot was last year, I think it was far side was hugely dominant day 1. Then it became middle day 2 and it was near side day 3. So there's no good looking into it.
I remember it because I remember talking on this podcast a lot about the draw and then thinking, actually, this hasn't really made much of a difference because it's changed so much. It's like they listen to us and they'd be like, haha, we're going to confuse you even more.
I think the one thing is, if you're watching on the Tuesday and the first 2 races go far side and sprints, then make sure you use that trend.
Follow the theme of the day,
Yeah, certainly. Okay, right.
I'd have to say I've got a great image of TC stood in a sand bunker up to his knees in sand, looking at his phone and snapping his sand wedge.
Me and a
really
bunker
cheered me
sounds
up.
about right, to be fair.
Right, we'll move on. Let's hope you won't be in a bunker for any of the Royal Ascot days. Right, we've got to the end now of our Group 1 previews and our main race previews. But we know it's not just about the Group 1. It's not about just the main feature races. There's so much accompanying it. And a lot of the conversation, as we have every year, is about the 2-year-olds. And who are the best 2-year-olds that we're going to see? Who are the real ready-made, fast, precocious types that are going to really strut their stuff at Ascot next week? And it's in my mind, I don't know who to go to first, because I know that Ross has a juvenile judge, but this is the man that has said to me every podcast has been watching more jump racing and also says how difficult this early part of the season has been to judge 2-year-olds. So what have you done, juvenile man?
No, I stand by it. I went back through, I can't tell you how many 2-year-old races just to see if there was a thing. I really don't think it's been an easy year to train 2-year-olds. It's clearly not been an easy year to train flat thoroughbreds in any way, shape or form, but I think the 2-year-olds definitely been affected because there's normally 2 or 3 that have bolted up by big distances. And your only question then is because there's not time for the form to work out, it's whether you can trust the clock and trust your eye. There's very few that have really sluiced up this year. So it'll be more of a, when we do the daily pods with TC, I'll have more of an opinion then perhaps, because a lot of them could go 5 or 6 as well. Obviously it's the same every year, but I think this year there's more, it's more up in the air. So I've got 2. I thought Make Haste for Diego Diaz in the Queen Mary. She won at Nace on her debut. She was really keen in the early stages, but travelled beautifully through the race. And when she was asked to quicken, she just looked so professional. She wasn't on the rail. She was down the middle of the track, and she just ran so straight and powerfully through the line. Diego Diaz has got a breeze-up background, so she was clearly well educated for that first start. The form hasn't really worked out, but she quickened up so smartly. Wasn't hard pushed to do it, and it's one that I would just trust my eye over the form. I think she'll definitely go Queen Mary, so she's quite a safe selection with that. And Aidan O'Brien will have one in there who will probably go Queen Mary, but could equally go to the Albany. So she might just have a little bit more speed. So I liked her. And then Whistle Jacket in the Norfolk, full brother to Little Big Bear. Was really immature on his debut over 6 furlongs. But then just looked absolutely transformed. It's amazing. We have one trip to the racecourse with all those facilities that Ballydoyle have. Looked a completely different horse in his second start, winning over 5 furlongs. The runner-up Arizona Blaze beat Camille Pizarro, who's really well regarded by Coolmore next time up. He'll stay. Whistle Jacket will stay further than 5. He's got an entry in the Coventry as well. But I like horses that stay the 5 well at Ascot, particularly for the 2-year-olds when they're still finding their strength. So I thought he was a decent looking horse as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. Being related to a horse that won at Royal Ascot, it was the Windsor Castle.
Full brother,
full brother a few years ago. Right, okay, so that's just a warning basically. Could be, and with that in mind as well, that there could be some shocks. Could there be next week, like we had last year? The
thing as well, I should say about certainly Make Haste, she was so professional. And I think with your certainly with my 2-year-old bets, even if I've got a strong opinion, I've backed both of these now, but I'll top up on the day if they take the preliminaries well, if they get down to the start and keep their jockey on board, if they go into the stalls without making too much of a mess. I think there's real value in just watching them through those stages, because they have to go under that Ascot arch, and it's really, you see grown horses really panic about it. So there's so much for them to get through before they even get down to the start. And some of them will just have run their race, by the time they get down there.
Diego Diaz, very interesting. Again, about her mind, how brilliant her mind is, and the fact that they've turned down 760,000 from Wathman.
Yeah.
We know Wathman.
I did love the fact that he just put that figure out. I imagine Yona has probably said to him, Diego, I didn't really want the wife to know that. But brilliant. I just loved, nice and open and honest, and
it was fabulous. It's like he didn't realise he was on TV. It was brilliant. And we know Wathman have been buying everything that they can do to try.
And they've been buying, through the breeze ups. They've been really good. Richard Brown, isn't it, with their breeze up purchases? They've hit the nail on the head with a lot of them. So the fact they highlighted her of all the fillies that have run, just went in my positive box as well.
Yeah, they've got loads of very good stopwatches and things like that to help them. So good luck to them. They've got plenty of them. Let's see if we got any of the 2-year-olds that we like are going to be out of Wathman, because I don't think there are any from me. What about you, TC?
No, I did like their winner the other day at Beverley. I can't remember the horse's name. The first time up for Carl Burke.
Electrolyte.
Yeah.
No, not that one.
No.
Can't remember. James Doyle, Shareholder, maybe?
Yes.
Shareholder, yeah.
Shareholder.
Big horse, yeah.
I like
he
it, but
doesn't necessarily, I thought, had the mind
pedigree.
for it
Yeah.
either.
Well, maybe not. But anyway, he's not in Royal Ascot for me. Only got 1 2-year-old. That's it so far. And I did mention I've only had 2 anti-post bets at this stage. Henry Longfellow being one, the other's Mountain Breeze for the Albany. I tweeted after her Newmarket debut win that she's going to be hard to beat at Royal Ascot. She went up and bolted in again 13 days later. To keep it short, she's very precocious and she's got a lot of talent.
And she's Pinatubo's little sister, who was brilliant, wasn't it, in the Cheshire? Yeah. And I didn't know why they really needed to run her second time at Newmarket.
They went back to Newmarket, didn't they?
Yeah.
And after his first run, he said that she won despite not liking the track, and then went back there again. And it seemed bizarre, and she coped much better. So perhaps that's why they went back.
Maybe.
Educate her a bit.
I think she's been one of the most impressive 2-year-olds I've seen. I don't want to repeat what you've said, but I love her.
And she's joint favourite right now, 5-2 with Fairy Godmother, the Aidan O'Brien horse. But what she's done has been way more impressive than her so far, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more with you. Mine, I'm going to go for the actor, who is could be around about 16-1 for the Coventry. The form from his Newmarket win is turning out so well. He's got 4 winners behind him, including Mr. Chaplin and Symbol of Honour, who I think is one of the more fancied horses in this race. So that race has worked out extremely well. I really like what he did. He's also a horse that had to have his first run to improve on to win second time. He's by Harry Angel, who there's another horse by Harry Angel running this week that I quite like too, but probably, I don't know, maybe he slightly might be going under the radar a little bit, but I thought we did nothing wrong. And I think normally a Newmarket victory stands you in very good stead. So he's my selection. And I'm also with Whistle Jacket and Mountain Breeze for the extras, but nothing overly going to get overly involved with, just as you say. Could be a few shocks, I reckon, from 2-year-old perspective, depending on how they do. So those are our 2-year-olds. Now, there are handicaps aplenty over the 5 days. We have got confirmation stage of day 1 and day 2. Obviously, declarations come in on Sunday for Tuesday. So we're still uncertain who's going to turn up where. But we like to hope there'll be a few of them. And I'm sure there are a couple that we've been keeping an eye on in terms of their rating. Are they going to get in or whichever? So with that in mind, who wants to begin? Anything got something that they've been waiting for? And this is their chomping at the bit for it.
Well, I've only got one selection in this. It's not necessarily a horse I've been waiting for, but a horse I'm keen to bet next time. And hopefully it'll be in the Wokingham, and that's English Oak. Now, the reason I've only got one selection in this segment is because, as you say, we haven't really seen all the handicap fields as of yet. And I kind of want to nail my colours to the mast closer to the time. But I will like English Oak in the Wokingham. I thought he ran great when he was second behind Rohan at Ascot in October. And that's, key to your course form, but also Rohan, very talented horse in his own right, went off 2-1 favourite and rode the bias, whereas English Oak was far away from the Stansted rail that day. And then he came back this year, bumped into a very good horse on his comeback. Again, didn't ride the track bias, whereas the winner did. And then last time on soft ground at Haydock, super impressive. Mm-hmm. I do want to see a bit of rain for English Oak. Yeah. But the track and trip should suit. And that opening, this mark, right now of 100, this horse is chucked in.
Okay, yeah, Ed Walker been
You like this sort of,
in great form.
before,
I feel like I have done somewhere, but I do like what he's done and again how he's improved. So English Oak, so just the one, and that's also a really good point for me to remind everyone that these two men are dedicated to you guys and getting selections in. They will be previewing every day of Royal Ascot in a snappy 15-minute podcast, so you'll be able to cover all the races once the decks are in. So I'd imagine there are a couple that you're sort of waiting for, or they're
not so much wait for. I don't have TC's encyclopedic knowledge of all these flat horses. I need visual kind of reminders as to how it all ties together. So to go through them at this stage is a bit too much work for me. But I looked and I thought Holloway Boy in the Royal Hunt Cup, must be a really frustrating horse because he's clearly talented. Won the Cheshire in 22 on his debut. He was 4th in the Jersey Stakes last year, which is a decent enough race. He's looked a couple times like he doesn't stay a mile, but he definitely stayed the mile in the Verton Futurity when he was 5 lengths behind Auguste Rodin. You know, he stuck at it really well. He's getting down to a nice enough mark now. He clearly likes this track. I just thought he might be a tidy enough price in the Royal Hunt Cup. And then also in the Wokingham is Kinter. It's really lightly raced on turf. But when you look at the form on turf and quicker ground on turf, second to Lazoo over this course and distance. Lazoo's now rated 110.
Yeah.
I just thought there was enough to suggest that this might just be the right setup. And George Bowie coming into form 24%. He's been quite quiet for the early part of the year. I just thought was interesting enough at this stage. Yeah,
they're definitely coming into form at the right time. Holloway Boys, yes, I feel like he was gelded recently.
Yes.
And that might just help him a little bit. He's clearly...
I hope so. He's clearly been...
His mind
they've tried all sorts of headgear and different rides and all sorts, haven't they? Not
quite right. Okay, well, there are two that there's one that I remember from the back end of last year thinking whatever she does this year I'm really looking forward to seeing her, and that is Fair Angelica. I said Harry Angel, like the sire, he's represented by the actor, but Fair Angelica will be going to the Sandringham. She won at Kempton last time. She's won at Kempton twice before, but she's also won on the turf. She seems to get herself out of trouble. She knows how to really deliver in any style, any manner. But I think that she's definitely improving. She's gone up £10 for her win last time. But that's confirmed that she'll definitely get into this race. The only time she's been beaten this season was when she was second to Mission to Moon, who ran a very good race at Epsom last time, was second himself against an elder horse. So I really like Fair Angelica for Sandringham for Richard Hughes. And my other horse is Jubilee Walk by Study of Man, but Study of Man by his own admission shouldn't be producing sprinters. But this horse, and I don't know necessarily how short he'll be. He might be a short price, but what he did at York, I thought was massively impressive. He came back in trip and they showed how much speed he has, but I think the 5 furlong at Ascot will play to his strengths. He's a horse that seems to be kind of above his age group in the fact that he's able to travel through his race quite well and doesn't get too lit up like some young 3-year-olds do. So Jubilee Walk, who I assume will be running in the Palace of Holyrood House, the 5 furlong handicap for 3-year-olds. So those are my two, which will complete our handicap section. And we're getting to the bitter end of it now, guys. We've done really well. We have got Nap's next best selections now. And I think that I feel like I kind of might even know where we're coming from. I think you've kind of hinted at it. And there are horses that have already been backed. But Nap of the entire meeting, I'll go with you first, Tom, and then your Nap next best after that.
Yeah, White Birch and the Prince of Wales is my Nap because I don't like Auguste Rodin and the others aren't good enough in my opinion. And the next best is Henry Longfellow in the St James's Palace. Anti-post bet, and I've already gone on about him. However, I will caveat again by saying if it is soft ground, Opera Singer and the Coronation would be leapfrogged into my Nap.
Okay, brilliant. Right, we love it. Team Ballydoyle over there.
Yeah, yeah, I'm joining in. My Nap is continuous in the Hardwick. Slightly tentatively now because I just wasn't thrilled to see quote from Aidan O'Brien describe him as a big gross horse that takes plenty of work. But Middle Earth is in his second favourite, was really impressive on his seasonal return, but he's officially rated 108, continuous at 120. He was really impressive in the Great Vulture over a mile 4. He clearly stays very well. He might not even have to be at his best to win this. I just think he's a horse that perhaps has still gone a bit under the radar because he won the St Ledger, and that's not a sexy race to win anymore, you know. But he had loads of speed when he won the Great Vulture. Don't see the drop back into a problem. So slightly less enthusiastic than when I typed it yesterday, having read that quote, but I still think he's got a great chance. And then my next bet is Whistle Jacket in the Norfolk. It's the 1-2-year-old I'm pretty confident that I know what he is and how he's going to do things. So I'll stick with him.
Okay, brilliant.
Sounds like we need a podcast collaborative bet on Aidan O'Brien, top trainer, by the sounds of it.
Sounds like it. It does sound like this. I feel like I would be wrong to choose one in my NAP's next best. And actually, it will be my next best. But my NAP is a horse that we haven't talked about. It's one that I'm so excited to see how he develops over the course of this year. It's King's Gambit in. He is running in the Hampton Court. Thank you. The 10 furlong race. He's a horse with a huge amount of ability. We know how well the London Gold Cup is working out. Poneros behind him that day. Shanti Persica, who went on and won very well at Epsom. He is going down the same route as a horse of Roger Charlton's called Time Tested, and sort of essentially turned into a Group 1 horse slowly. And again, the Charltons are very good at nurturing their horses, and I think this is a real impressive unit, and I hope that he'll be able to give me my NAP. And my next best is going to be Opera Singer, to give it a real wholesome, tidy feel. But for some reason, TC doesn't believe she'll win without the ground being as it is.
I do.
So we'll take you on. But I should say Auguste Rodin, really.
No,
maybe I'll make it more fun. My next best would be Auguste Rodin to take on TC's White Birch. That'll make it a bit more interesting. But there are plenty that we have taken from this last, I'd say, hour or so that we've gone through it. But as I said, these guys are going to be at your beck and call. We're previewing every day a Royal Ascot podcast, just 15 minutes on your commute, just gives you a little snapshot of what you've got to look forward to, and probably be weathermen, give you an update on what's going on with the weather. So thanks, guys. But before we finish, the Euros are on the horizon. We're recording again on Thursday. First kickoff match is on Friday. SBK are offering a Bet Builder winning boost on every game at the tournament. So make sure if you're placing a bet on Bet Builder on England, Scotland, or anyone else, you just know where to go. Head to
Not
SBK. Wales, in it?
No, I don't think we are.
You don't think so? You're still wondering.
I wonder when we turn up.
That's why it's just in England, Scotland. But as I said, SBK offering you the option for a Bet Builder winning boost on every game at the tournament. So do get involved. Obviously, you've got your opportunity to get involved as well with SBK for Royal Ascot week as well. And then again, if you are new SBK users and you're only listening to us for the first time, where have you been? But you do get £30 in free bets when you sign up to SBK. And make sure you enjoy Royal Ascot wherever you're tuning in, wherever you're watching. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you very soon.